Okay, cool. Well, hello everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the latest CAS Inspire webinar with our fantastic guest speakers, Dr. Hannah D and Mr. Dan Powell. My name's Tim Wilson. I'm your host today. In the wings is my colleague, Leah Batstone, who will be moderating and keeping an eye on all the comments and questions coming through. We both work at CAS. I'm part of the outreach team, so I'm responsible for the regional growth and delivery of CAS across 3 regions. And Leah is responsible for ensuring events like these happen and fly in the wonderful ways that they do. And we do all of this as part of the National Centre for Computing Education. So this webinar is the latest in our action-packed CAS Inspire series, which is a series of valuable events, podcasts, and videos consisting of live webinars with expert panelists such as Hannah and Dan, and discussing a whole host of topical computing education matters, which you, the audience, can get involved with. So I just got a few little housekeeping things to do before I introduce our speakers. If you're new to these events, this is how to get involved. We ask you as attendees to keep your mics on silent throughout. If you have questions or comments for our speakers, use the chat or the Q&A window on the right-hand side of your screen, or the bottom of your screen as it is, to ask questions. Leah will be moderating your questions, as will our speakers. And as we have time, and if we have time at the end, some of these questions will be relayed to the speakers as well. If we run out of time, we have outstanding questions. We will be sure to ask Hannah and Dan these questions separately, and we will share their insights across our social media channels. Finally, if you haven't already caught on, we're recording this session. So for those of you who catch this session afterwards, hello. Finally, before I introduce Hannah and Dan, if you are social media boffins like me, the hashtag for the event is CAS Inspire, and please take the time to share your thoughts and ideas and opinions and whatever else on your channel of choice. So on to our speakers. So first up, we have Hannah D. Hannah is a senior lecturer in computing at Aberystwyth University. Hannah is the founder of the BCS Women Lovelace Colloquium, which is a one-day conference for women students across the UK. Through this event, she talks to a lot of women students and also a lot of employers who sponsor the event. And she's also one of the co-authors of this fantastic book. I have a copy, Hannah. There you go. Called Women in Tech, which is a book I can highly recommend. She might be mentioning it. I don't know. Dan Powell is our next speaker. Dan is the head of the fantastic NEON program at Engineering UK. Dan oversees the strategic management of the platform to ensure it remains and is the go-to place for teachers looking for high quality, careers-focused engagement in engineering and beyond. So I'm going to stop talking and hand you over to our first speaker, Hannah. It's all yours.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. I'll just kick up my slides and then we can get going. So, hello. As I've already been introduced, my name is Dr. Hannah D, and I'm a senior lecturer at Aberystwyth University teaching computer science to undergraduates. Mostly I teach information security and database management and stuff like that. But I'm also, in my spare time and in other things, very involved with BCS Women, and in particular the BCS Women Lovelace Colloquium, which is BCS Women's event for women undergraduates. So this photograph on the, let me just check, left is the last time we met in person at the Lovelace Colloquium, because like the rest of the world, we've done a lot of things online in the last couple of years, but we did used to get loads of women computer science students in a room with employers and talks and posters and everything. And when you get loads of women computer science students in a room, it looks a bit like that. And it's quite loud. I don't know if that surprises you, but it could be quite chatty. And I guess the reason I was invited to do this talk today is because of my involvement with women students, and also because of the BCS book on women in tech. And I wrote a chapter on computing in schools in that book. So I wrote a chapter on computing and younger women and girls. So in preparation for this, what I've done is I've asked lots of young and not so young women what got them interested in computing careers. And what I'm going to do in this talk is I'm going to go through the things they said, and maybe draw some themes out. In this, it was really interesting asking these questions on the alumni groups from the Lovelace Colloquium and on the student networks that I'm part of, because we've got a really diverse group of women students, some of whom spent their school careers not as girls, which gives a very different twist on the computing experience at school. And it's also worth just thinking about how people got inspired in the first place quite often, because computing is a really interesting subject. And when you talk to people about why they like it, you find all sorts of things come to the fore that you might not have considered. And some of these are obvious and some of them less so, right? So a lot of the students I spoke to said that they got into computing because they like building stuff, and they had done computing lessons at school, but they only realized how fun it was when they built a website, or they used Scratch to make a game, or they actually used it to create something that they could then share with someone else. If you wanted to build something, computing lets you just do it. You can literally just go ahead and build something. You don't need to go to a lab or use saws or technicians or anything. You could just get on with it. The other thing that people came up, a lot of people came up with this, was that they like doing creative stuff. So they liked art, they like music, they like perhaps animation, special effects. All sorts of creative things can be done with computers, but they've got an undo button, right? So you might not be good with your hands. You might not have that dexterity that you need in order to be able to do paintings or drawings, but actually writing a program that does a drawing or engaging in computational arts is a really interesting sort of way into computing, and can be one of the really inspiring things that gets people started on this in the first place. Another theme that came up repeatedly was that computing is about solving problems, and solving problems involves understanding people. If you want to be able to build things that people are going to use, you're going to be solving problems that fit a particular person's need. And in order to be able to do that, you have to understand people. So if you want to make things that help people, if you want to solve problems for people, then computing is a really good thing to get into. I think quite often when we talk about computing as a problem-solving activity, we think about problem solving in the kind of logic puzzle sense. So programming is a kind of logical problem-solving activity. And if you like maths and logic problems and stuff like that, you are going to be drawn towards computing. But I think it's really worth emphasizing the social side of this as well, because solving problems for other people is a really useful thing to do and can appeal to a different group of people to the sort of generic problem-solving motivator. I'm not going to linger on this slide because money is a motivator for lots of people, and I don't think I need to emphasize that, but computing can get you a lot of money. If you like helping people, there's another reason for getting into computing. So a lot of people mentioned they got maybe summer jobs, or they started by fixing people's printers. If you become someone who knows a little bit about computers, you soon realize that you can use this to help people, which can turn into, in turn, helping people by working on a help desk, or perhaps fixing things for people in their technical world. And this is this isn't the final one, but this is one of the later motivations that came up. Was from about 5 or 6 of the people I spoke to talked about healthcare in particular as the problem-solving domain they wanted to work in. So these people wanted to work in medicine, but they didn't want to do a medical degree. They didn't want to have, they perhaps weren't very good with blood, or they didn't want to get involved in that kind of side of healthcare, but they did want to do things that help people in a particularly sort of computational way. And the people that answered this were doing careers at the moment, like working, like one of them actually works for cancer research and is researching a cure for cancer, but she has a background completely in computing. And this is not unusual as a path. If you read about the COVID vaccines and you read about the COVID genome strains and stuff like that, there are computer scientists at every step of the way doing research in how these things work. If you want to do detection of cancer from scans, then again, there are computer scientists every step of the way designing the systems, designing the databases behind the systems, working on the information security. There are definitely computational careers in all aspects of medicine, and they don't actually involve having to talk to patients or dealing with squicky stuff. So that could be a real bonus if you are interested in that type of thing. A not insignificant proportion of the people I spoke to, again, did this because they were interested in building the future, like literally building the future. They were interested in science fiction. They read lots of books about artificial intelligence or robotics in the future, in Star Trek, or maybe they watch television. And computing lets you build these things and create the future. So it's kind of, let's take science fiction and make it science fact. We have people answering this. And I was talking to people who are, for example, working in space robotics, and I can't think of a more science fiction field than space robotics. But there are women who got into computing at school and are now working in space robotics. And that's kind of it for the different topics that got people inspired in computing. But there were other things. It's not just like getting inspired by a particular subpart of computing or a particular place that computing could take you in the future. Quite often people are inspired because they enjoy computing itself. And how they get exposed to that, if you're looking at building things that could inspire girls right now, then computing clubs, coding clubs, robotics clubs, similar things, Code Club, Coder Dojo, all of these have been really, really inspirational. And earlier things like Rewired State and Young Rewired State were mentioned by some of the older people that I spoke to. And being on a CAS talk at the moment, I'm guessing a lot of the people watching this know about these clubs and know about these options, but it's worth emphasizing just how inspiring these things can be, and to say this is definitely things worth continuing with. A lot of the girls I spoke to and women I spoke to were really encouraged at a particular point by someone. Loads of people said, shout out to my dad for encouraging me to do computing, or aunts or mums or other role model figures in the home or in clubs and so on. And I don't think I need to emphasize to teachers, because I think teachers understand this already, right? But if you say you could do this to somebody at the right time, that really can change their direction. Similarly, though, if you say this isn't for you, or you say you can't do this at the right time, that can really knock someone off course. So being encouraging, I think, is really important, generally speaking. And all of us can do this, whether we're in the classroom or whether we're talking to family or whether we're talking to friends or whatever. And finally, this is my last of the examples. Loads of people said they had great computing teachers. So I want to finish off with like a thank you to all of the computing teachers who are watching this, because there are some really inspirational computing teachers out there. And the girls in your classes, when they're encouraged by you, really, really appreciate that and have come on to talk to me about how good you are. So that's really great. So that's a bit like a big list, right? So just to summarize the big list, there are 3 key messages that I think girls need to get about computing in order to be inspired about it. You need to be good at it. You can be good at it. So girls can be good at computing. They need to get that you can do it message. They need to get the message that you can do anything with computing. So you could go into medicine, you could go into art, you could go into film, you could go into whatever. And they also need to get that message that girls belong in computing. It is a subject for them. And that links quite nicely to the National Centre for Computing Education's Gender Balance project, where they're looking at 3 main threads, like self-confidence or self-efficacy, having the you can do it message and understanding that you can message, you can do it message. There's relevance, which is that computing is relevant to all sorts of careers. And then finally, there's the sense of belonging. We have to engender a sense of belonging to the young women that we're working with. And that's the end of my brief, but probably quite fast talk.
Let me just come off mute and say thank you very much. Oh, sorry, I was just tweeting away, taking your three takeaways from your list. Sorry, I realized, oh, I better be back on and talking.
No, that's okay. No, it's a bit fast perhaps, but there you go.
I imagine you could quite easily have done another 10 minutes as well.
Yeah,
Many more examples of your cool. I'm sure I'm just checking Leah's around and able to change the co-hosting, or shall I? Oh, you've already
I
done
think
it.
she's just done that, actually, Tim.
Yeah, you've just been given the powers. The powers of platforms where you are now the host. So cool. Shall I give you a minute to get your screen set up, Dan, or shall I just hand over to you?
You can hand over to me if you like.
Cool. So from Hannah to Dan. Dan, as I say, Dan works for Engineering UK and runs the Neon Futures or Neon program, and I'm sure he'll tell you all about it. So over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Tim. Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here. Thanks, thanks, Tim and Leah, for the invitation. I'm going to talk today about. I'm just going to share my screen with you. I'm just going to talk about how you can use Neon to engage girls in engineering. But I mean, you could very easily take that, say how you can use Neon to engage girls in computer science, because there is plenty of content on Neon that you could use for that. So I guess I should start by saying, just giving you a bit of background as to what Neon is. So it says here, Neon brings together the UK's best engineering experiences and inspiring careers resources to help teachers bring STEM to life with real world examples of engineering. I'll give you a quick run through of it in just a minute. Engineering UK's mission is to increase the number and diversity of people who consider it a career in engineering. And so engaging girls in engineering is something that's very important to us. And as you go through the Neon website, you will see plenty of images of girls to make it very kind of relatable. We have a set of quality standards on Neon that all of the activities that providers put on there need to go through. And one of the quality standards is to include positive and contemporary messaging about engineering. And we work really actively with the providers we work with to ensure that there are images of women engineers and of girls taking part in activities on the site. Also, we've got a lot of case studies of women who are working in engineering. And I think that plays to what Hannah was saying about, you can do this, and role models, and you belong in computing, you belong in engineering. I think we have to face facts and say that when people think about engineers, they often think about people that look like me, a white middle-aged man, possibly in a hard hat with a high vis on, standing in front of a bridge. We really want to try and break that down, show the diversity of careers in engineering and in computer science, obviously, as Hannah has just been talking about. But also that it's it can and should be a very diverse workforce with plenty of women involved. So I think what I'm going to do, if that's okay, is just share my screen again and show you the Neon platform. Let me see if I can do that. I just need to do a couple of things. So can somebody, Tim, can you just give me a nod if you can see? Can you see Neon now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, excellent, thank you. Okay, so this is what you'll see when you arrive. So just to say, first of all, actually, that Neon is a platform that was developed by Engineering UK, but actually we're developing it on kind of behalf of the engineering or STEM engagement community. So there was a review called the Perkins Review a number of years ago now, and that identified the need for a platform where teachers could go and find activities that they could share with the young people that they work with to inspire them about a career in engineering. And so we took that on. We spent 2 or 3 years working with teachers, with providers and other stakeholders to kind of work out what that needed to look like. And so Neon is the output of that. So when you first arrive, you will see this page, and right at the start, you will see we wanted to make it really easy for teachers to use. So you'll see here this box. So if I put in, I'm down in Brighton, my kids are at Varndine School. So if we go to Varndine School and click search, then it will begin to filter the activities to show just the ones that are available at that school. So wherever you're in the country, you just put in your the name of your school, and you'll see here we've got STEM Ambassadors Program, Big Bang Digital, and these are all of our online activities. So when we were first planning Neon, it was all about kind of in and out of school activities. So actually being kind of face to face with a person who would then inspire you. We launched Neon last September, and we were planning it and kind of implementing it and we ran a closed beta test for a while, for about a year before that. So obviously just as the pandemic hit, one of the issues about developing a site like this in the, which is all about kind of in and out of school activity when there's a pandemic on, is that's not really happening. Most of the providers that we're working with were pivoting so that they could provide online activities. So we made a space very quickly where they could put those. We did think that maybe that would stop happening when the pandemic kind of eased off a bit and everyone went back to school, but actually that's not happening, and I think that will continue to not happen. So we're looking at a blended approach with some in school, some off-site activities, some and quite a lot of online stuff. And the online activities have been really, really popular with teachers sharing them with the students that they work with. So you can see there we've got 55 here. We've got 23 activities which people can actually come into the school and run. First Lego League, which is quite a big one. And just let me find one that we can open up. Well, we can open up any of them. Let's open this one. Okay, so you can see when you open this page, the first thing I'd say is that you check availability here. So we don't handle bookings on Neon because that's an incredibly complicated process, which we haven't put in place yet. It is on our roadmap, but probably it's a few years away. So you'll see there's a bit more context here around what the activity is all for, including who's running it. And then there's some more details here. And then for all of them, we use a set of learning outcomes that are very STEM focused, so that to help you to kind of gauge exactly what young people what learning outcomes the young people you work with are going to get, what subjects and topics it covers, which are the Gatsby benchmarks that it will help you to hit. This is something that teachers told us that they really need to see. That's kind of becoming, well, I know this is only in England, but this is something that's it's becoming increasingly important. I think it's part of the Ofsted framework now. And then teachers also said to us that they wanted to see not just the kind of engineering skills that it helped to develop, also the more T-shaped essential skills that helps to develop. And so we're working with the Skills Builder partnership and asking providers to let us know what essential skills it builds. What teachers say is that really helps when they're trying to sell to a senior management team about what kind of, the value of these activities. And then down here, there's some kind of related activities and some of our careers resources. So that's what you'll expect to see on one of the cards. Just to say as well, we've got 8 off-site activities. And what we do with these is you can see these, we just order these by the distance from the school. So then you can make a decision about whether you want to travel to it or not. So the last one down here is 290 miles away, which is a bit of a distance to travel from Brighton for a day. But we thought it's best to kind of put the decision about that in your hands. So a range of different filters at the top, that's the one I'm looking for. And yeah, I think we're always looking for new activities to put on here. They all have to fit our quality standards, so they will have to have that positive messaging. They will have to have a substantial careers element. And these are the different types that we cover. So we have competitions, we have events, projects, speakers, so things like STEM Ambassadors Programme, trips, obviously that's kind of things like this Thames Water Sewage Treatment Waste Tour you can see, and workshops. So there's loads and loads of content on here. And also you can view the off-site activities on the map as well if you prefer to have a kind of visual sense of what's going on. We've also got quite a lot of careers resources on here. So this is stuff that you can use in the classroom. You can order these for free if you want physical copies, or you just click on one and it'll open and you can download it as a digital resource. And then these are our case studies. So this is something, I think this is where this plays to the kind of role modeling thing that Hannah was talking about. So you can see here, we've got some young women. The one I'm looking for is Alana, who's a software engineer at BT. So she actually started off doing something, like wanting to do something completely different with her career, but actually pivoted and is now a software engineer at BT. So yeah, this is about 3 minutes long, I think. So it's a really great thing to just share with the people that you work with and show that kind of early career software engineer who's a woman, yeah, hopefully that will give some inspiration. The other thing that I wanted to quickly show you was this under the spotlight page. So if we click on one of these, what we do is we curate collections of the experiences and the careers information that we have on Neon around a certain theme. And we've done a couple of these around engaging young women. So they turn over quite a lot. So what I'd suggest is that if you go to Neon, if you go here and just sign up, it's completely free, obviously. If you sign up and click to receive our newsletter every week, it's a 2-minute read. And that will mean that you get a newsletter, and as and when we're kind of putting this kind of content on, that you'll find out more about it. Okay. I don't know how I'm doing for time. I kind of get the feeling that I should probably move on a bit. So I'm just...
I've given you a 2-minute warning.
Oh, have you? Oh, right. I missed that. Sorry, Tim.
All right.
Okay.
You have 90, yeah, I'll give you about another minute and a half. Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to flag a couple of the experiences and things that we've got on here. So specifically for girls, we've got this Girls into STEM, which is a really good thing. And the Teen Tech Awards are something that's very popular with young women. And then there's two case studies. So there's one here about Alana, who's the software engineer I just talked about, and Roshni, who's a fire engineer as well. It's a really inspiring one with really nice video message. But there's plenty. We've got about 120 case studies on there, so there's plenty to choose from. So I think I probably better stop now, or Tim's going to give me a telling off. So yeah, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dan. Really useful overview of the Neon platform, and also really good tie-ins to what is today's subject on girls into computing, girls into engineering and beyond. We sadly don't have time for questions. What I would say though is for anyone who would like to continue the conversation, please head over to Twitter and use the CAS Inspire Twitter handle. CAS Inspire hashtag. And if you have questions, please put them in there using the hashtag, and we will pick them up. But I think what I will do is I will say a big thank you to Hannah and a big thank you to Dan. Lots and lots of insight, lots of sharing, and I hope that everyone who is attending today and everyone who subsequently watches in the recording gets a lot out of the content. So thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. So just so you're aware, the recording of this webinar will be available pronto. We also have 2 further CAS Inspire sessions coming up next week. So these are the final ones before Christmas. We will have a spring term schedule published imminently, but next week we have a primary session, which is entitled Itching to Do More with Scratch, ? Where we'll do all sorts of stuff around Scratch, like text to speak, video sensing, how to use Scratch to control the microbit, and how to get lots of resources. And we also have a session called Using Minecraft, which is for secondaries, using Minecraft to teach coding. So, you know, all about Minecraft and how it can be used in the classroom across the curriculum, open source version of Minecraft called Mindtest, which I'm sure some of you will have heard of, and lots more besides. So please check out the CAS website and book on those sessions next week. Other than that, thank you so much for attending the CAS Inspire session today. A big thanks to Dan and Hannah, and a big thank you to Leah in the background for helping with the moderation and everything else. But otherwise, I wish you all a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye. Thank you.